Beautiful and lovely gamers, my name is Jonal. Welcome to this week's episode of Mailbox Monday. This here where I take your questions, your submissions, your ideas, everything in between and try to answer them in a timely manner. Of course, if you like the series, if you like this show, you can always submit your own question on a Discord server, linked down in the description. Go to the Mailbox Monday chat room and you can just submit any question really that you feel that you want answered. If it's overwatch, FPS gaming, and general stuff like that, and I'll try to get to it as soon as I can. Now, of course, a like on the video, a comment really does help out against YouTube's abusive algorithm, which has been pounding the channel lately. The same goes for subscribing to the channel. The support, the growth really do mean a lot. My Twitter and my Twitch will also be linked down in the description in case you want to hit me up with a nice follow. Would really much appreciate it. Now, without further ado, let's start with the first and the golden question of today. This question comes from Dicey, and actually this is the very first one, or maybe one that I will be taking from YouTube. Now, normally, I would have just taken this from the Discord server if it wasn't the Discord server. This was asked in the comment section. I decided to make a video on the topic and talk a little bit more with it instead of writing him a comment. So I will actually be taking that. However, please do write it in the Mailbox Monday chat room on our Discord, because that's where I will be taking 99%. It's just that this was an easier way to give him the answer in a faster and more fulfilled way. So he asked, on the previous video that I made where I talk about tier list during hero bans, which I'm making more videos of those since there was just announced a new hero ban wave, but where essentially says, I know on your tier list you says McCree is better than Ashe, but could you explain to me why I should pick one or the other? I like them both. And it's quite simple. You get noted. The easy way to explain it is very simple. With McCree, you get a far stronger main group. You have flash, you have a far more faster firing follow-up shots. While your damage is lower per bullet, it becomes a very quick amount of keeping pressure, and mainly because of flashbang, you can stun main tanks, you can stun DPS supports that get in, allowing you some of these free picks, and essentially doing that. If you're holding something in your main group, it's no longer just about pushing in and not get hit or maybe have the health to tank the damage. All of a sudden, there's also a stun there, which can delete most DPS or squishes with a hammer or something like that. Or there's help trade on that tank or on whatever you're stunning, both alone and with your team. So by picking a McCree, you do get a much stronger main group in the sense that they have a CC ability and consistently follow up with those shots. Also, the McCree can be a little bit more difficult to push alone because of this stun, because stun and fan the hammer is instant 300, and if you start headshotting on top of that, the damage really rack up with 140 damage headshots. Now, Ashe is a little bit different. With Ashe, you get pressure, far more pressure, and far more verticality. And the pressure normally comes from this verticality. The angles that you're setting up are far more diverse due to you can take high ground, you can take all these angles very fast, and therefore get peaks onto backlines, supports, DPSs, and so on, and dealing easy 180 damage headshots. On top of that, your dynamite, which is AoE based, so if they push in, the amount of damage output you can get generally spread out over a team is far larger. But because of this kind of movingness, it's kind of like a far more pressure. However, your main group is weaker. Well, yes, you have more damage and you can deal a lot of this with dynamite and getting these sweet angles and dealing damage. There's no stun, so there's actually nothing that physically stops them from pushing into a team. However, again, you're also far easier if your team is very stagnant. Everybody's playing in the choke, everybody struggles pushing through the choke, and you need to create far more angles. Then it might be something where you want to pick Ashe, because you can get different angle, you can pressure way different areas on the map with your scope, and you have this AoE damage, plus Bob is one of the strongest ultimates in the game if you know how to use it. However, if your main group is constantly collapsing and you need to help them win the frontline fight or stop a tracer or in general just protect the main group of your team, and McCree pick might be the better option at that situation, as you can stun whoever is going in and help follow up with the team, and you have this revolver which consistently is like 70 or 140, just pounding the enemy team with consistent damage all the time. So I hope that answers the question between when to pick McCree and when to pick Ashe and what they differently bring to the table. Now, question number 2, of course, is from Hole, and he asks, how important do you think theory crafting is to a coach? And theory crafting, especially in the higher tiers, even in contenders that I work with now, is very important, because what it does is, one, it makes sure that the players understand the overall game plan. And you can't just say, oh yeah, go top right and then rotate to left and then go mid and then you should find a pick there and then you just play from that. What everybody needs to understand is that you can't have a plan like that, because the enemy might be rotating, pushing from another way, maybe running a different team composition. Maybe they try to make a play early, maybe they don't push as far up as they should, maybe they... All of these kind of factors are so different that you can't make one single plan for it. It doesn't work. Trust me, I've seen teams that has tried to dictate it. So theory crafting is a really good way to make everybody on the team be on the same page. What is our game plan? What is our win condition? How do we play around each other? What is the overall understanding of our team composition and the team comms and us as individual team players? Not just for one team composition, but like, how do we communicate? How are we supposed to play around each other? What is the fundamentals? What is each individual role? So everybody understands everybody's individual role. And it's such a good way to take those kind of things. So theory crafting is a really good way to give them the game sense, so when it comes to difficult situation in matches, they have the knowledge to play from those difficult situations that you've covered with them, not just scenario based, but because they understand your team composition and the overall plan and structures. So theory crafting is very, very, very important. It's one of my favorite things to do, even with the higher tier of the tier 3 scene. Even the better teams there really need a lot of theory crafting for good coaches, because it helps them improve so fast as a team all the time. Now, then we have YouTube's abusive algorithm asking, do you think that fundamentally tanks will always dictate the meta? Like we pick X and Y tank because they will work with X and Y DPS and healers instead of the opposite. And yes, to a certain extent. I think that tanks most of the time dictates the meta, because the tanks, to phrase it in a good way, the tanks dictates the playstyle of the team. Not in low elo solo queue. Not in low elo solo queue, okay? Please, let me rephrase that, because low elo solo queue, we're talking platinum and so on, you can really do whatever the fuck you want as long as you're carrying, right? So not in there. But especially if we're talking the theoretical part of Overwatch, tanks really do dedicate what you're playing. If you're playing dive, you can't play. If you're playing dive, you need to do setups. There's no real other ways. And if you're playing DPS that cannot do that, they cannot get in, cannot claim space, cannot set up to fight on the dive area, it doesn't fucking matter that you're playing dive. Your tanks won't get, and your DPS won't get value with that tank line, and vice versa. If you're playing Deathball, playing double flanker with a Deathball is really difficult, because you will be pushing in with a very weak main group, and when the part of Deathball is to push in with a strong main group, or at least have some form of presence there to help your main group fight, you having two people trying to flank the backline of the opposing team, well, it can work. It's very, very unsuccessful. So whatever tank is a lot of time the best tanks will dictate it. But there are exceptions to this. Break was a very big exception to this, where because of the break enabled Reinhardt in the meta compared to when it was only dive, right? So sometimes we see either the tanks being the main reason, or because of introduction of a new hero or a balance change or something similar, it opens up the field to introduce these tanks that normally would have weaknesses, but that now have been patched out of field with an increase of healing or something similar. So yes and no, but it's a balance across the board. But whatever tanks are picked normally dictates the playstyle, or at least should set the tone for what your playstyle ensues, right? Bunker is bunker, Deathball is Deathball, dive is dive. It dictates the at least the tone of the play and the tone of the strategies and the hero picks that should be picked around these tanks. But it's not always just because this tank is good, therefore you play with this tank. A lot of time it is also about who is the best. If it's Mercy meta, it's Mercy meta. Then you will pick different tanks to compensate against that, and also to enhance that experience as Mercy meta. If it's break, it's break. If it's introduction of something broken, you will be playing tanks that can to a certain extent accommodate these DPS picks as well. So it is a fine fluid what can I say, a collaboration in the team pick phase. Now, then Hole asks, what is your opinion on other educational or Overwatch YouTube channels? I'm going to make an entire video talking about this. I really want to do that, talking about coming from the aspect of somebody that was not a YouTuber before and was playing the game competitively, watching a lot, and had a lot of, I would say, remnants of what a lot of people think about these YouTubers, and a lot of complaints they have about some of these YouTubers. Something that I've noticed myself growing and communicating and talking with some of them, and also being, while a very, very small one, and trying to grow, YouTube myself, my opinions on how it feels is right now. I'm gonna make that, but my general thing is, again, I don't watch all of them. There's a lot of good educational content, and it becomes better and better and better. I've constantly talked about, for example, someone like your Overwatch having some really good people that works. There's a bunch of people that works for your Overwatch. There's like 2, 3, or 4 people that works for it. The videos that I watch, with especially one of them, which I'm not sure, it might be Miska that does those, that I really like. I'm not really sure who it is that I'm watching that I like, but there are some, if not all, in your Overwatch example, that create really good content. Stylosa as well, and I've talked about this, even though I don't think that your overanalyzed is very good coaching. That comes again for somebody that works for contenders teams. Stylosa doesn't. So it's not expected of him to coach at the same way. I charge money for my private coaching sessions because of the value I can bring to the table. He doesn't. I think that, for example, overanalyzed, while it's not the best coaching series, and sometimes I think that I would wish that he wouldn't make it so much about content, because it's a very content-based series. That's what makes it educational, because that's Stylosa. He's a very very entertaining person to watch his videos, and that's what gets you hooked on his content. But it's not as educational as I personally would like it. So I think that it really depends on who you're watching. If you're watching O'Nickel, for example, O'Nickel's channel is not always catered. It's not really catered to that hardcore competitive fan base, while other channels are. For example, I think your Overwatch is at the pretty, competitive cycle. Maybe not the pros, but the competitive aspect is there. And Stylosa, I think, is just overall a channel of him covering Overwatch, and I think that's what you get when you watch Stylosa. That's also why I like watching Stylosa, because he doesn't try to be a try-hard analyst. He doesn't. He's Stylosa, and then he talks about stuff that makes him excited. And I think that's what makes him a good YouTuber. That's at least my personal opinion. But I will cover this far more in an upcoming video. Subscribe to stay tuned for that, because I think it would be interesting, because I have found it very, very interesting. But besides that, guys, as always, thank you guys so much for watching. The support, it means a lot. Even though the channel is tanking right now in views and so on, I just really continue just grinding content. It's have been a struggle a little bit, and that's something I've been struggling with a while on YouTube, to like always watch my analytics and like be very, very subconscious about the views I'm getting and blah blah blah. Right now I'm just trying to make content that you guys enjoy, and that you guys think is awesome, and that I think is awesome to make, and trying to really fall in love with that process. And I've been doing that now for the last month or so, and I think it's going way, way better. Even though, of course, I really like getting views, because it's I don't know, like, it's good to feel that, the effort you're putting in, it is getting spread around, because I do put a lot of effort into it, and I think that the content I'm creating is pretty good, at least personally I think so. But thank you guys so much for the support. It means more than you can imagine, and seriously, I do mean that. Yeah. As always, guys, my name's been Jonal. Please take care of this, a positive. I love you guys very, very much. And as always, keep the enemy.